Alrighty, it's 6:30, and I see we still have quite a few joining us, and we'll give them a minute or two to get on the call before we start. Okay. Well, recording. Okay. Alrighty, Coach, we'll go ahead and get started if you're ready. So everybody, this is I think our third Life After Sports series webinar. We have Coach Stephen Greek with us. He is a Javelina alumni. He is currently a high school coach here in Texas. He's worked for FCA, if I'm not mistaken, Advocare, and is now committed to being a high school coach and making an impact on our next generation. So thank you so much for joining us, Coach Greek, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you so you can have the floor.
Thank you so much. What an honor to be here tonight. I really appreciate, Hannah, you taking the time to visit and set this up, because really this meeting tonight is designed with you in mind, and that is you, the listener, you, the student athlete, alum. It's an honor to represent our university, and I really want to thank Coach Estelle for initiating this, and I couldn't be more honored. Those who are currently wearing the blue and the gold, who have represented and put on the Javelina uniform, there's been a lot of great men and women who have represented the University of Kingsville, and so whether that was when it was Texas A&I or those of us who were in the transition from Texas A&M Kingsville. And so I saw where Coach Estelle texted me, and he said, we just got out of practice, I'm going to be jumping on the call, and I saw where he jumped on here. And so Coach Estelle, love you, appreciate you and all that you've done for me when I was a young man and a student athlete, and all these years later to have that bond. Also, for those that may or may not know, Coach Salinas, the head football coach, and I were college roommates. So I've got a few stories, and he's got a few stories. I'm blessed and honored to be a Javelina. And so what I wanted to do is just tonight share a little bit of my story and see if by chance that might connect with you. So if you're currently enrolled in school and you're trying to figure out how do I balance the pressure of being a student athlete and getting my degree, and then also meeting the demands of the training, the rigor that it requires to be a student and an athlete, and be my best. And I think what you will discover is your coaches who pour into you, your professors who pour into you the wisdom and the knowledge, they're going to give you their best. And I think that's what we want to learn, is how do I juggle, especially in 2020 with all that's going on, how do we bring our best every day when it seems like there's so much going on around us that requires either my attention, my focus. You might have things tonight where, man, if you knew what my family's going through, if you knew what's going on back at the house, I'm trying to figure out how just to breathe sometimes moment by moment, and then figure out how to get through one day at a time, much less long-term goals. So let me tell you a little bit about my story. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley, South Texas, a little town called Rio Hondo, just outside of Harlingen. And I signed to play quarterback for the Javelinas in 1995. So I came to Kingsville as a football player, and I was a multi-sport athlete, as many of you were in high school, and I decided to jump over and try to bring my talents to something bigger than myself through the team, basketball team. And really the way that I got connected to the basketball team was through Coach Estelle. He had just come off of being an All-American, and forgive me, Coach Estelle, if I mess this up a little bit, but he had just come off of being an All-American point guard for the Javelinas and had taken the Javelinas to the deepest playoff run in school history. And then he was going to be a graduate assistant for Coach Carter. And we were playing open gym one night, and I remember being on Coach Estelle's team, he and I in open gym. We didn't leave the floor that night, to my knowledge. Now, all these years later, that story may be a little bit bigger than it really was. But what I remember, Coach Estelle, and tell me if I'm right or not, we played pickup basketball, and for about 3 hours, we didn't leave the court. We just kept winning, and had a little bit going on that night. Had a little bit of magic. You know, that happens when you're playing with Coach Estelle. Good things happen, and when you're playing for him. And so after we played that night, he said, what are you doing? And I didn't really know what he meant, but I kind of inferred where he was headed. He said, you're going to help us. I said, what do you mean? He said, I'm talking to Coach Carter tomorrow, and you're going to come out and you're going to be on our basketball team. So they had a little team tryout, open. It wasn't open gym. It was a closed kind of workout. And I came out and had a good showing, and Coach Carter invited me onto the basketball team, and the rest to say is history. Coach Carter, after 1 year playing for Coach Carter, Coach Pete Peterson came on board and was a tremendous teacher of the game. And I had the privilege of playing for Coach Estelle in that assistant role, as well as Buzz Williams, who's now the head basketball coach at Texas A&M University. And so these men that are all Javelinas had so much of an impact on my life. But it doesn't stop there. Some of you may know Coach Wilson, the women's head basketball coach at the time. I believe she is still working for the NCAA. And Coach Wilson at the time was a tremendous encourager and supporter of not only myself, but my wife. And so my high school sweetheart from Rio Hondo, she was a year behind me. She followed me to Kingsville. She had many opportunities to go to other universities, but she had some academic scholarships. And lo and behold, we continued to date in college, and we got engaged while I was on the basketball team. We got engaged, and we were married my junior year and her sophomore year. So I was 20 and she was 19. I know that's young, but we were in love. And all these years later, we just celebrated 23 years of marriage this past August, and I'm thankful for her all these years. She was a big encourager and a big reason I was able to keep my focus in college, academically and athletically. On the good days, she was there clapping and cheering for me, and on the tough days, she was there to help me get my chin up. And so I really took these first few minutes just to tell you kind of how we got to Kingsville and what connected us to the athletic program, and really the people who mean so much. And again, Coach Salinas, the head football coach, he and I are very close all these years. In fact, the day he accepted the job to become the head football coach, he and I were on the phone, and we were talking about why we're in this profession as coaches. I knew that I wanted to teach, train, and mentor young people through the vehicle of athletics because I believe it's a training ground, and that's why what you do matters. Tonight is not about me. It's just my story. But tonight, I hope my story will encourage and inspire and impact you because I remember what it was like being 18 and 19 and 20 and 21 and trying to get that degree and trying to make the grade and trying to show up for the morning workouts and trying so hard to keep it all together. And some days you feel like you're going to break, or at least I did. That might not be your story. Maybe you've got it all together. I don't know. But what I do know is this: most people, whether they're younger or older, we need that encouragement. And so tonight, I hope that this webinar, this Zoom meeting, is an encouragement to you. So, and at any time, Hannah, feel free to jump on, or Coach Estelle, jump on and ask questions or guide the conversation, because I really want this to be meaningful for each of you tonight on the call. But I started thinking about what if I could go back to my younger days, and believe it or not, I used to have a lot of hair. It's gone nowadays, and that's just part of growing older. But I continue to try to stay young in mind and in spirit, and approach and attack each day. And so how have I done that over the years, and what are some things I think that you may want to know about? They say, if you show me your friends, I'll show you your future. And I'll say that again because I think that's very, very important for you as a student athlete. They also say that you and I become like the 5 close people we hang out with. And so I want you to process that. And I'm not saying that's true, but there's been enough leaders that speak on the topic of surrounding yourself with winners, surrounding yourself with champions, surrounding yourself with people that they have what I want, or they're going after what I want to go after. They're taking me to the next level. And if you can say, man, you know what, out of my 5 closest friends, I would say, yeah, absolutely. All 5 of them are on the trajectory, and they're heading where I want to go. Then keep that up and keep that circle of friends. And we can have 20, 30, 50, 100 friends. But when we start talking about our inner circle, those are the people that can steer us in the right direction, kind of like a Coach Salinas and a Coach Estelle. These were people that I knew on the good days, they were rooting for me, okay? And on the tough days, I could pull them aside and say, man, I'm having a rough day. And I knew that they could inspire me and encourage me. And I think we all need that. So look at your inner circle and identify, write those names down. Who is that? Okay. Something else that I think that we need to look at is if maybe there's a couple of friends that you're like, man, I know, like, we've been friends since childhood, or I met them my freshman year in college, or we're related, or whatever, and all of a sudden you say, man, I don't know if they are going where I want to go. Like, what does their Thursday night in Kingsville look like? Because when I was in college, the Thursday nights may or may not have been heading in the direction where we may want to go. The Friday, the Saturday, Kingsville sometimes can be viewed as a suitcase college. Sometimes it's close to San Antonio, close to Corpus, close to the Valley. So sometimes if you're not in season, you might get in the car and go home, see the family. That's all good. I think we need family. I think that's something we've learned in 2020 with all the craziness that's gone on, is you kind of learn, hopefully we're learning what matters the most: our faith, our family, and our friends. And so I would really just encourage each of you tonight, take inventory, write down your closest friends and those that are heading where you want to head. Continue to associate with them and hang out with them, and then make a list of those. And you don't have to make it public. This is really a private list. This is just for you. Journal it if you have to. Write down those that, man, I don't know if I need to continue to invest a ton of time. I can be your friend. I'll be here for you if you need me. But when we all have 24 hours in a day. And so the next thing I wanted to talk about was prioritizing our time. I don't know about you, but one thing that I've learned over the years in running a business, in being a coach, in being a husband, and I have 3 sons. I have a senior in high school, a sophomore, and a 7th grader. So my 18-year-old here in just a few weeks will be heading off to college. He's committed to play quarterback for Mississippi State, and my sophomore is he's well on his way to his last couple years. It seems like the last couple years in high school, and my 7th grader is he just turned teenager. So we're having fun with the teenage. I've got 3 teenagers in the house. So my point in bringing that up is I want to have a strong marriage. So we talked about faith component, family component, and friends. So I kind of worked backwards. So friends, kind of address that. Right? You show me your friends, I'll show you your future. The second thing is family. I have never wanted to put success in place of my marriage or my children. And what I mean by that, I have been fortunate enough, let's see, right after I graduated from college, I started teaching and coaching at a little school down the road. You might have driven through Bishop. So I was hired on as a football, basketball, and track coach. I was the offensive coordinator for Bishop back in '99. I think I took the job, and then in 2000, we were not very good, but the kids were great, and the community was phenomenal. So if you're going to be a student teacher or coach, and you can get on locally, Bishop's a great community. Love the people, the community, the churches, just great community. So if you can ever do student teaching at Bishop or nearby, I really recommend it. Great lifelong friends there. But after that, my wife and I wanted to move back home to us, which, if you remember, was South Texas and the Rio Grande Valley. We wanted to start a family. And so we made a decision. I took a coaching and teaching position at Harlingen High School. It's a 6A program. And I was at Harlingen from 2001 through 2008. And then we had many great years there. I was mentored by a lot of great coaches and had a great experience there in the Valley. And then I got out of coaching for a short time and helped oversee as the area director for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And we had an amazing opportunity to build relationships there with so many teachers and coaches and student athletes, and put on events and small groups to just encourage. Again, that's part of what I've always felt called to do, is to encourage and inspire people, and help them become the best that they can become, and feel like they're fulfilling their purpose. And in 2009, my wife and I felt like we were being directed and called to move to North Dallas. So I took a teaching and coaching position at a private school in Plano, Texas, which is North Dallas. And from 2009 to 2017, in 9 football seasons, we went to, I was the assistant head coach and offensive coordinator. In 9 seasons, we went to 6 state championships. We were able to win 4 state championships. Great kids, great community, great coaches. And then in 2017, took an assistant athletic director and head football coach at another private school in Argyle, Texas. And so we've enjoyed each season and every step of the way. And I can tell you this, wherever you're at, if you're in college or if you're professional in teaching and coaching, or in corporate America, everyone that I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be a part of their life, there are ebbs and flows. There are highs and there are lows. And I think we live with social media. We live with, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And we sometimes peer over the ledge, if you will, and we look into everyone else's life. And we have to remember that that's someone else's highlight reel that may not, what we think is they have it all together, might actually be they've got some struggles that you and I don't know about, but we don't post that because that's not fun. We want to post up stuff that's going to get the likes and the thumbs up and the applauses and the emojis, right? And so I just want, if I'm a 18, 19, 20-year-old or beyond, and I'm trying to navigate the waters of 2020, how do I become my best? How do I become a leader? How do I make a difference and an impact? I think that starts with knowing who you are. And that takes me to kind of the third talking point. So I opened up talking about friends. And then the second point, I talked about family. And so family is very critical. And if you have a great relationship with your family, give thanks for that, because there's, if you have a good relationship with one parent or both parents, make sure that they know, call them, text them tonight and say, I love you. I appreciate you. And just know, make sure, like, nobody's a mind reader. So make sure that they know, speak it into their lives, call them, text them, record a video, send it to them. Make sure that the people that you love and love you, make sure they know that. Assume nothing, because life is a vapor. It can be here and it can be gone. And you want to make sure that those that have gone out of their way to encourage you and love you and help you along the way, know that you appreciate them. So family is very important. But then faith, and for me, faith is a big part of my life. It's a big part of my journey. My struggle is discovering who I am. And for me, I can have a horizontal relationship and try to impact people through my profession, through my relationships this way, if I understand who I am this way, vertically. And so for me, I don't know, tonight you may be on the call and you're like, hey, that's not my thing. I want to be respectful of that and just say, hey, I'd encourage you. You know, I believe there is a God, and I believe he's big enough to handle your doubt, your fear, your questions, your lack of belief. And so I would just encourage you, I dare you, if you will, and I say that respectfully, just say, man, I don't know if you're there, but if you are, I need you. And that's the story, what happened for me in college. I found myself very alone. This is before my wife and I got married, and I really was trying to discover my identity, who I was. And I realized real fast that the things that we put stock in, that they don't mean a whole lot unless we know who we are. And so, you know, for me, I just show you this. This is just a little. It's actually a book by the leadership guru Zig Ziglar. I know you young people may or may not know who that is, but I had the privilege of meeting him a few years ago, and this is just some promises, some Bible promises and encouragement for leaders. And it's real simple. I try to read this, you know, every day. It takes about 5 minutes. And this for me is just a little bit of fuel for my faith, because I know when I leave my house, I'm going to go out into the world and I'm going to face some struggles and some battles that maybe take the energy out of me or add a lot of stress or pressure. And I want to be able to attack those obstacles and overcome them. I do not want to be succumbed by them. And for me, having that faith relationship is so critical. I think something else, I was thinking, you know, I started doing this probably around my sophomore or junior year in college. And I know it sounds, you know, this isn't the actual one, but I started journaling. I started writing down the victories and the defeats, especially when I was playing basketball, you know, and Coach Estelle was on staff. I had to go on a journey of discovery to figure out, you know, what's my role on the team. You know, I'm not the star. I'm not a starter. Sometimes I don't play a whole lot. Okay. So does that affect my attitude and my emotions? Or have I learned to die to myself, so to speak, and make it about the team and so some of you on the call today, you may be just trying to figure out, how do I add value to the team? And I would say, be all state, be all conference in practice. Like, don't if you get 30 seconds of playing time, make it the absolute most ferocious, crazy 30 seconds. If you're a basketball player, dive on the floor, take the charges, leap into the bleachers for the loose ball, get noticed. Make sure that when you're not out there, your presence and your energy is missed. Be so contagious with your body language and your effort and your attitude that you almost force the coaches to have to look at playing you. And if your role is to be scout team, then be the best scout team player you can be, because you never know when you're going to be called upon. And you're preparing for that unknown moment. And a lot of these things that I'm talking about really they reveal our character. And that's why it's a struggle, because the easy and the comfortable thing to do is to take the path of least resistance. It's to, you know, not touch the line on the sprint, especially if I think coach might not be watching. It's in the weight room. It's supposed to be 3 sets of 6 at 85%. Okay, but that last set, I did 3. Okay, I'm gonna rack it. I could have gotten 5 or 6 with a spotter, but I went ahead and I racked it at 3. But here's what I've learned over the years: when you're training for football or in the weight room or in basketball, or you're kind of just getting by academically, is that's the one thing that maybe helped me, is because part of my story is, after, you know, Coach Estelle was on and we had a coaching change, I transitioned from being a scholarship athlete to basically I had to walk on and earn my scholarship again. And that created for me a chip on my shoulder that I needed to prove myself to my coaches and my team, but also back to myself. Like I gotta get after it. I gotta prove that I have value and I belong here. And so there might be someone on the call tonight that's part of your story. Maybe you're just getting by and you're giving your best and maybe it's not getting noticed. There's a breakthrough coming for you if you will choose to dive into the blueprint and dive into the process. That's kind of an overused term nowadays, but that means we just surrender the outcome. Like it doesn't matter if I play or if I play, because I can dive on the floor and be my best, because that's a reflection of my character. And ultimately, I have to look myself in the mirror at night. Like I have to live with me. And so that's something I had to learn probably my sophomore year. It was not easy. And I want to encourage you tonight, because the lessons that you are learning as a student athlete right now, you're gonna carry with you as you go on and you start working, in the corporate world, or when you take on a family and you get married, or you start raising children. If those of you that may not be to that stage yet, you're going to have to go home when you're exhausted, just like an off-season workout, just like a weight room workout, just like you've run your preseason conditioning, and you don't feel like you've got anything left in the tank. But when you drive home and you push the button and the garage goes up, now the work that really matters begins, and you don't feel like you've got anything left to give. The faith principles that you are learning right now as a student athlete, I know for sure under Coach Estelle and Coach Salinas, and probably I would venture to say all of the Javelina coaching staff, you are going to learn to push yourself up to that threshold where you think I don't know if I've got anything left. And you will discover that if you choose just to say, I'm going to give all I've got all the time because it's the right thing to do, and it really reveals my character. When you learn to do that over and over and over again, you will discover something on the inside of you that is so powerful you cannot be stopped. You can be the walk-on that proves, you know what, I belong. I'm a part of this team. I bring value. I bring relationships. I bring encouragement. I bring hustle. I bring fight. And if nobody ever even recognizes it or acknowledges it, I get the satisfaction of that vertical relationship and my faith and my family and my friends that love me the most and know me the most. And I can look at myself in the mirror and realize I give my all. Why? Not for any other reason than because that's who I am. Here's something I've learned over the years. Champions do what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, how they're supposed to do it, with the intensity it requires to be great. And if you ever lack one of those four things, you may not be on your way. I'm going to say that again because someone on this might be writing down, taking notes. And I'm going to say this. Champions do what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to do it, when they're supposed to do it, with the intensity that it requires to be great. And so I know that you have great mentors, you have great teachers, you have great coaches, but these are just a few principles that I've learned over the years, that I learned from Coach Estelle, that I learned from Coach Buzz, and so many of my mentors and teachers over the years. And it's a decision. It's a decision. And so, for me, when I was on that lonely road, I took this out. I'd come home from the dorm, and for those of you that don't know, this is the good book. This is the Word of God. It's the Bible. And it's the Bible that steered me to a relationship with the Lord Jesus, who died and rose again for us. And it also is the wisdom that gave me the encouragement and the hope that I needed in my daily life. I would encourage you, read a book. And I don't mean like a movie or a novel, but if you want to grow in leadership and wisdom, you gotta gain knowledge. This is a book that I read 20-something years ago, and I've reread many times over the years, Purpose Driven Life. And there's so many good leadership books out there, and seminars and webinars, but connect yourself to people, again, who are going where you want to go, who have what you want to have, and aspire to become more. And we don't do that by staying comfortable. find someone that is mentoring you, that you gain wisdom from, and then find someone who maybe has it less fortunate than you or is struggling that you can encourage and mentor. And what you'll find is you'll have that constant relationship where you're being mentored, but then you also can encourage others. A few more thoughts, and then I'd love to open it up because I want to honor your time, but I want to make this worth your time. Is believe, overcome, be an over believer. There's going to be days where you don't think you've got it in you. You think you've given your all, and I want to encourage you. You've got more. And so, mental health is something that's probably in the last year or two become pretty. Especially with quarantine and COVID and the lockdowns that happened last spring, and all of us were kind of confined, people started talking about, man, we're designed for relationships. We need each other. That's why this is kind of cool that even though we're not in person, hopefully there's something here that resonates with you, is that if you're on the screen, you can see me. And if you're listening by phone or what have you, you can at least hear my voice. I want to encourage you. Talking with Hannah, some of the things that the student athletes have expressed is sometimes just a feeling, I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm struggling as a student. I don't have enough time. I would encourage you to take out a notebook sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours or a piece of computer paper, front and back, and I want you to write down on one side what I want. This is what I want. This is what I want in life. It could be athletics, academics. It could be degree, job. Here's my future spouse. This is what I want. I want to live in this kind of house, in this neighborhood, in this part of the country. I want to travel here. This is what I want. Okay? And then on the back, flip that paper over and write down, here's what I don't want. And you start writing down the things you don't want. And what happens is, I believe sometimes when we write it down, it ignites something in us on the inside. That's called passion. That's called purpose. And I think too many of us, especially the people that might be on the call today that are around my age, is we start to learn to settle. We just start to learn to say, well, that's just the way life is gone. And so we start to settle for lesser things, for mediocrity. I'm not talking about materialism. I'm talking about things concrete that matter. And what you'll find is that list over the years it will change. It might change every 6 months because you'll start to grow as a person and your priorities transform. Your priorities will change. Your mind will be renewed and you'll start to say, those things I wrote down when I was a freshman in college or a junior or my second year of marriage, they're not as important. These are the things that matter. And I say, well, I just want to be happy. I want to be comfortable. Y'all, I'm telling you, comfort, I think comfort's out the window. I think people of significance live in a state or a tension, if you will, of discomfort. We want to press and grow. Now, I'm not talking about strife, right? I'm talking about this relaxed intensity that comes from knowing that when I walk out the door tomorrow, I want to go make an impact on this world. I want to be a light. I want when people walk away from having a conversation with me, I want them to feel uplifted, feel like, you know what, man, I was having a rough day, but I bumped into Johnny, and I bumped into Sally, and I bumped into Juan and Susie, and man, I just walked away. We hung out, by the coffee pot at work for 5 minutes, and I already feel energized. Like, you can be that person on your team. You can be that person in your class or in your family or in the workplace. You can. And I think that's where we have to look. We have to take an inventory. I think something else that helps, and this is to my point, is we all have 24 hours in a day, 365 days a week. Like, successful people don't have 26 hours in a day. They've got 24 hours in a day. They've learned how to say yes to things that matter. And they've learned here's the important thing. They've learned how to say no to really good things. I'm going to say that again. The people who are very successful and productive have learned how to say yes to the best, the things that absolutely matter. And they've learned to say no to really good things and really good opportunities. It's just not my lane to run in. That's not my deal. can't be all things to all people. Like, that's a lie. You can't. I don't know a whole lot, and I know, especially up here in Dallas, I know a whole lot of very successful people. I don't know that we can have it all. I think we have to learn to say yes to the things, the great things that we're called to, and say no to some good things, and just be okay with that. I think the other thing is, I was telling Hannah, when I was in college, something that helped me stay on track. It sounds cheesy and dumb, but right now on my phone, I'm an assistant athletic director and a head football coach. I have timers that go off on my phone like throughout the day, and it reminds me I need to be here. I have a meeting here. I've got this. Because I want to stay on track. And I think as a student, as an athlete, as a husband, as a wife, as a parent, as a professional, how do we do that? I like to set my year up. Okay, I've got a year calendar, and I like to break that year basically 1 year into 180-day snapshot. That's about 6 months. And then I take those 6 months and I break those down into 3 90-day snapshots. So I'll have my 90-day, plan. And then those 90 days, that's 3 30 days, which is basically a month. And then out of 1 month, I like to break that into 2-week snapshots. And that's something, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. And so for some of you, that might be you go to Walmart and you buy an $8 calendar that's a 30-day deal. This is what I did in college because I was a student athlete. I was helping with FCA. My wife and I were engaged, and we were wedding planning and all that stuff. And then we got married. It was just life, like busy, volunteering and doing stuff at church and all that. So something that helped me is I did that calendar and I color coded it. I mean, I know that doesn't sound real masculine. I don't know, maybe, but that's what I did. I put everything that was sport related for the team. I put games, I think, in blue and practices in green, and I put academic test dates in red, and then in black was just like life, right? And that calendar was packed. You can ask Coach Salinas, he'll verify that, in our dorm there in Turner Hall, right? We didn't have that nice new weight room that you have, but I tell you what, I set that up, and for me, that kind of helped me stay on track academically. I was, some people that I know, graduate cum laude, and I was all academic, Lone Star Conference, and some of my friends graduated. Thank you, Lord. That's a bad joke, right? Thank you, Lord, they graduated. But graduate, please finish the race, right? Get that degree. That's huge. And I think that what keeps you on track, whether you're in college or beyond college, is have little moments of where you accomplish something and then celebrate it. Celebrate it, because sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. We got our hands to the plow. We're running the race. It's hard. Sometimes you got to come up for air. I know when we were in college, and this is some of the people on the call may verify this, but I tell you what, I still remember when the movie The Water Boy with Adam Sandler came out, and it seemed like the whole football team and the basketball team, after practice or a game, and my wife and I can't remember if we were in our first year of marriage or we were engaged. And back then you could go to the movies right down there. And they had the student night I think it was $2. $2 with your student ID, you could get into the movie. And we went down and we watched The Water Boy, and everybody, packed house, Water Boy, Adam Sandler, everybody was laughing, and it was such a good time. And that was a little moment. We were in the middle of the season. We were grinding academically. We were grinding in practice. We were in season playing games. We were studying, staying up late, making sure, cramming, doing all those things that students have to do. But you're going to survive, and you're going to find little moments, whether it's going to the dollar movies or going to Sonic and getting you a little ice cream cone. Celebrate the victories. You made a good grade on the test. Go out with a friend and celebrate the victories. Make sure it's the right kind of celebration, because you're student athletes and you want to represent the school well and your name well. But I would just say this: you can do it. You want to know why you're doing it. So know your purpose. And then when you know your purpose, now you've got the passion. When you know why you're doing something, like a lot of people don't know this, but my mom and my dad did not have a college degree. They still don't. Okay, but the Lord provided other ways. My dad's in ministry. My mom supports him in so many ways. For me, I was the first male on my side of the family to get a college degree. And there might be 2 or 3 of you on that call tonight where you're in the same, you're going to be for your family a lighthouse. You're going to be a beacon of hope and encouragement to your little cousin or someone that's got it rougher than you. That's what you're fighting for, man. That's what you're fighting for, to be that inspiration and that encourager, so that when others look to you, they say, well, if they can do it, I can do it. And then you have a story, and that story is going to be packed with struggle. It's going to be packed with scars and days where you didn't think you could get out of bed. You cried yourself to sleep. But somehow, some way, you had the right kind of friends. You had family, whether they were biological family or just people that became your family along the way, maybe church family or loved ones. And then you had the faith in something bigger than yourself. And like I said, for me, that was my relationship with God, by trusting Christ. And because of y'all, I was able to make it through. And God is so good, and He's so faithful. And I'm so honored to just be Javelina. I'm so honored to be invited back, just to encourage you. Because like I told you tonight, this call is not about me. This call, like, I don't think I'm that interesting or that important. I'm a Texas high school football coach. I've been fortunate enough to win a few state championships. But I love what I do because every day I go out with my kids and my team and my coaches, and every day I try to inspire them to be their best and to know that they can make it, and that together we can accomplish a lot of special things. So what I'd like to do at this time, Hannah, I'm not sure if you want to jump on, Coach Estelle, anyone wants to throw out a few questions, but I want to make sure that you know that I am humbled tonight. I appreciate the time. And I hope that there's something in my story tonight that inspires you and encourages you on the tough days. You just keep going, because you got purpose, you got divine fingerprints all over your life, and you can do it. You can make it. There's a destiny on your life, and you got to just decide every day, I'm going to roll up my sleeves. I'm going to give my best. I'm going to have some good days. I'm going to have some rough days, but I'm going to make it, because this world has some crazy things going on, and the world needs you. The world needs your light. The world needs your encouragement. And Javelinas have been known to graduate from that school and go out into the professional marketplace and do great things. They've gone out into their communities and inspired hundreds and thousands of people to make this world a better place. And that's going to be your story.
All right. Thank you, Coach. All right. I turned on the chat box.
Yeah.
So if anybody wants to ask Coach Creek questions directly or provide any comments, feel free to do so. Coach, you brought up a lot of great topics tonight. A lot of times we're trying to figure out how to succeed and not fail. But do you think that it's sometimes necessary for us to take a little bit of a speed bump in our path of figuring out what life is, for us to truly understand and appreciate what we can provide to life and what life can provide back to us?
If I didn't know what a valley was, I couldn't appreciate the mountaintop. And so I absolutely appreciate that question, because I think that we cannot celebrate true victory unless there was a struggle. And that's so much of what is being developed for each of us as we walk through life. It doesn't stop once, like, hey, I'm a freshman in college, I'm a senior, or once you graduate, the struggle's over. No, life, there are seasons of life that are a struggle. And I think that we've got to learn how to develop grit. The number one predictor of success is grit. And that is developing a struggle muscle, just like the way you and I go into the weight room and we train, right? We get under that bar, like our strength coaches have us increase small percentages. That struggle, we're developing that struggle, because on the other side of that struggle is strength. And so absolutely, I think part of the story of success, and I don't think we can microwave it. Like, I like to eat dinner. My wife's a really good cook, by the way. And man, just this past week, her family was visiting, and they made homemade enchiladas and rice and beans. It was just beautiful, like it always has been. I love food. I don't know if you can tell. But I tell you what, if if you microwave like the frozen food, it doesn't taste like my mother-in-law's homemade enchiladas. And that's the story I think that we're writing when we talk about success. You can try to microwave it, it's not going to stick. I think that the story that's being written is beautiful because there was struggle and we learned how to overcome.
Awesome. That's really the only follow-up question I had that I think was going to be answered well, like you just did, and really provide a great connection for our student athletes. So I'll turn it over, see if any of our student athletes have any questions, comments that they want to provide at the moment. And then if nobody has anything, I guess we'll go ahead and call it a night. I, again, truly thank you from the bottom of my heart on behalf of Javelina Athletics for getting on the call with us and giving of your time tonight to provide a great story, motivation, insight to success for our student athletes. So does anybody have any questions? I guess not. So we'll call it a night tonight. Thank you again so much.
Appreciate y'all. Go Javelinas. Y'all have a great night. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you again.